If you want to learn how to leave food on your plate when you are feeling satisfied, to stop overeating just because it's there, this episode is going to give you the 3 steps that you need, not just like that unhelpful advice of just stop, which does not work. It's going to dive deep into the psychology of what's actually going on when you keep repeating this clean your plate mentality and what to do about it. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to the Live Unrestricted podcast, a show where you'll learn how to heal your relationship with food and your body so that you can focus your time and energy on more important things like your personal growth. I'm your host, Sabrina Magna, food freedom coach, and my mission is to help make your life happier and healthier without stress, overwhelm, or guilt about food. If you love the show, please do go out and share it. And if you're looking for support with your relationship with food, details about my programs are in the show notes. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's jump in. Welcome back to the Live Unrestricted podcast, my friend. In this episode, we're talking about something that so many women still struggle with, and it's the clean your plate mentality. So you know that feeling when you are full, you are eating whatever is on your plate, and your body is sending you signals of like, I've had enough food, I'm good. And if I continue eating, I'm going to feel like crap. I'm going to have a stomach ache. And you know all of this. Consciously, you know that if you keep eating, you're not going to feel good. And you also know that you could leave food on your plate, but it's like something takes over you. And no matter how much you quote unquote know better, it feels like you can't control yourself in that moment and you have to finish what's on your plate. It feels very compulsive. And so this has a name for a reason, right? It's called the Clean Your Plate Club. And it has this name because so many people have been taught and have been raised to think in this way, right? If you think back to our parents, for example, I'm sure that you've heard someone say you got to clean your plate because someone in Africa is starving. And somehow by you eating what is on your plate, you are helping someone who is halfway across the world, which of course logically does not make sense, but it's what we've been taught. And when we're young, we are very suggestible, right? Anything that someone tells us to do and behaviors that we repeat enough times get stored in our subconscious mind. And then we just repeat them on autopilot. It starts becoming part of our daily life without even realizing it. And of course, this becomes really frustrating when you are trying to heal your relationship with food and your body, when you want to put a stop to overeating. And because this is a pattern that is so deeply ingrained, it might be showing up for you at every single meal or like 50% of your meals, which means that 50% of the time you are giving your body more food than it needs. So of course, you don't feel good in your body. And of course, you know that there is so much potential for you to walk away from your meals feeling better, feeling lighter, feeling more satisfied, and just overall having more energy. So let's start by talking about what the clean the plate mentality is. And then I'm going to walk you through 3 specific steps that you can take to not just allow yourself to leave food on the plate every once in a while, but to literally rewire, unlearn, and get rid of the neural pathways in your brain that have practiced that mentality over and over and over again, so that it's no longer part of who you are. And of course, at first, it's going to take some conscious effort because you have repeated this pattern for probably decades at this point. So it's normal that just like any skill that you learn, it's going to take a little bit of conscious effort. But over time, you're going to notice, wow, I'm having clients inside of Food Freedom Academy after a couple of weeks, they post in our Facebook groups like, oh my goodness, I'm realizing that I don't even have to think twice about leaving food on my plate. It's just something that I naturally do. And there's no anxiety, there's no guilt around it anymore. And it's these subtle shifts that happen over time that will lead to you not even having to think about it anymore. So the clean the plate mentality is externally based patterns of eating that involves eating until the food on your plate is gone, or the package is empty, or the bar is done, regardless of hunger and fullness levels. And so when we talk about unlearning this mentality, I'm sure that you have heard so much of the unhelpful advice of like, well, just leave food on your plate, just stop. It's simple. And like, sure, that advice is simple, but when something is so deeply rooted and there are mechanisms in your nervous system in that moment that drive you to override what you know logically and what you know rationally, then not only is that advice just really unhelpful, but it makes you feel worse because then you're like, I know what I should be doing and I'm not doing it. Therefore, I must be weak. I must be undisciplined. I'm never going to be able to change. And that couldn't be further from the truth. It's just that we have to tackle these beliefs and these deeply ingrained patterns at the right level. This doesn't live in your conscious mind. Consciously, you know that you finishing the food on your plate is not going to help someone halfway across the world. You know that you could leave food on your plate if you wanted to. That's your conscious mind. That's only 5% of the equation, which means that 95% of what is driving your behavior in that moment is happening below your level of consciousness, below your level of awareness. And that's where we need to do the work. So let's talk about what you will actually do, 3 steps that you will take in order to unlearn this mentality for good so that you can stop eating when you feel satisfied, you can enjoy your food more, you can go out to the restaurant and order what sounds good, and not be absolutely terrified that you're not going to be able to control yourself, not be terrified that you're going to end up overeating and then walking away from the restaurant feeling so bloated, so uncomfortable, so badly, because I have been there. I would have like these mixed feelings about going to restaurants. Restaurants were really, really tough for me because not only was there this like mentality of this is special, right? This is the only time that I get to eat this kind of food or I get to eat what I want. And then on top of that, I would pay for my food. So there'd be this mentality of like, I have to get my money's worth. I paid for this. Therefore, I'm going to eat it whether I feel full or not. And I would never bring leftovers home. And it was just a really unpleasant experience. So let's talk about the first step. The first step is really to recognize where did this come from? Because oftentimes we try to just like stop this pattern with willpower and discipline without having an understanding of like, how old does this go? How long have I repeated this pattern? And also having that awareness of where it comes from helps you tackle what's actually driving the behavior. What are some of the beliefs? What are some of the emotions that are driving the behavior? So some examples of where this behavior can come from is number 1, childhood rules. So you may have grown up with your parents telling you that you can't leave the table until your plate is clean, right? Like I had a period in my life where I was quite picky and I was told that I had to sit at the table until my plate was clean. Therefore, I learned this pattern that even if you feel full, you're not going to be able to go off and play your games or have fun until you've eaten everything on your plate. So there's this association that gets created of I have to eat everything on my plate if I want to be able to go off and have fun and live my life. And again, like we're so young at that point that we can't critically or logically think about what that means. When we're young, we just take everything in. We are absorbing so many patterns and so many rules from the world around us, and we don't have that critical capacity. So that could be one is, did you grow up in a home that told you that you can't leave the table until your plate is clean? And if so, then there might be that part of you, maybe you started learning that pattern at 5 years old or 6 years old. Well, that part of you is still stuck in that 5-year-old version of you. It hasn't been updated to know that now things are different, that now you can leave the table with half of your meal on the plate. So there could be those childhood rules. There could also be guilt about wasting food, right? Feeling wasteful or irresponsible if you don't eat everything. So notice if there's guilt or if there's anxiety that comes up when you think about leaving food on the plate. And as I'm talking about all of this, what I encourage you to do is to think about how can you bring awareness into your eating experiences in the future to notice like what's actually driving this? Like, where did this come from? Is it because I think that I can't walk away with food on my plate? Is it that I feel irresponsible if I don't eat everything? Like, really get curious. I say this all of the time to our clients inside of FFA is get curious instead of critical. If you're critical, you are not only creating more dysregulation in your nervous system, more stress, more anxiety, more pressure, which literally blocks your ability to learn from experiences, to tap into your subconscious. So get curious instead of critical, soften instead of hardening in that moment. Another place that it can come from is cultural expectations. So maybe you've been taught to value food as precious and to never waste it. Another place it could come from is a financial upbringing of scarcity. I see this a lot in many of the clients who have come through Food Freedom Academy is they grew up in a household where food was scarce, where there was financial insecurity, tight budgets. And so they never knew where food would come from or how much food was going to be available. And so from a survival standpoint, when you finally have a meal and you don't know if you're going to get a snack later or if there's going to be food available later, then of course you are going to eat as much as you can to save up in case of hunger in the future. This is very adaptive. It is very normal. Like there's nothing wrong with you or with your body if that is what you learned at an early age. It is survival based. So that can be a big one. And then last one, it could have been a reward system. So you may have been rewarded for finishing meals, right? Like you can only have dessert after you finished your dinner. And so all of these rules, all of these expectations, all of these past experiences that you've had with food of scarcity or reward systems or guilt will impact your relationship with finishing the food on your plate or not now, right? Like we often think that, well, now I'm an adult. Now I know that I have freedom. Now I know that I have scarcity. Like logically, I know all of these things. But those parts of you that are stuck in the past have not been updated to know that this is true. So I want you for the next, 1, 2, 3 weeks, however long feels right for you, is to start noticing, like bring a lot of awareness to what is driving? Where does this come from? Is it financial insecurity from my past? Is it rules about not being able to leave the table? Like, get really curious. Now, the second step of this is to notice mindsets that might be influencing you now. So this is a little bit different because the first one is, where does it come from? But the second one is getting clear on what are some of the beliefs that might be driving your behaviors now. Because the thing is, if someone inside of FFA comes to me and they're like, Sabrina, I have this habit of cleaning my plate, and what do I do to stop it? Well, the first thing that I'm always going to do is I'm going to ask more questions, because there is not a one size fits all answer to this, because what's driving your behavior is going to be different from one person to another. And so we have to get at the beliefs that are causing you to feel like you need to override your fullness signals and to eat everything on your plates. We have to get at your specific beliefs, because I'll often see, things on social media, for example, things on Instagram that says, if you do this one behavior, if you overeat, if you binge eat, if you finish everything on your plate, if you have food noise, do this one thing and it will all go away. And that's on purpose, right? Like, social media is all about clickbait. It's all about creating these like really strong statements to get your attention and to make you feel like, well, if you just listen to me and do this one thing, then all of your problems will go away. And this is a little bit of a side conversation, but I just want to say to use a lot of your discernment on social media, because it's more complex than that, right? Like, everyone has a different relationship with food. Everyone has different reasons why they do what they do. And I can tell you, after working with over 300 clients, that no two relationships with food, it's a hard one to say, are the same. So mindsets that could be influencing you now. I'm going to give you a couple of examples, but this list is not, all encompassing. So there might be other things that are coming up for you that I don't mention. And that's why it's really important to get curious instead of critical. So the first one, and this is a big one, this is one that I had to unlearn, was getting your money's worth. Feeling like you need to finish everything to justify the cost of a meal. So when it comes to the clean your plate mentality, you might notice that it's all the time, like whether you're at home or you're at someone's house or you're out for dinner, but it might just be more situation based. Like, it feels much harder when you're going out for dinner. It feels much harder when you're going to a buffet, for example. Oh my goodness. I cannot tell you how hard all you can eat sushi used to be for me. If I'm paying $30 to $40 to get as much sushi as I possibly can, I'm going to eat until I am a balloon. And what would happen is I would eat so much, I would feel absolutely horrible, because if you've ever overeaten on sushi, you know what I'm talking about. That rice is really bloating. And so I would feel like absolutely horrible. And then I would say, I can't control myself around all you can eat sushi. I'm not doing this again. So then I would go a couple of months without going. And then my friends would be like, let's go to all you can eat sushi. So then I would go again. And then the same thing would happen over and over and over again. So getting your money's worth is really real. Another mindset that can be influencing you is not wanting to hurt someone's feelings. So maybe you feel like when you're at your family's house or at a friend's house and someone cooked for you, then to avoid offending the person who prepared the meal, you just eat everything on your plate. So you ignore what your body is asking you because ultimately it's about people pleasing. So that's one that I personally never really experienced. But if you're someone who one of your primary nervous system responses is fawning, right? So people pleasing, being hyper vigilant of other people's emotions. And especially if you have a family of like Italians or Greeks who actually do push food on you and get offended, then that could be one that shows up. Another one is having the habit of eating to completion. So this is where like that all or nothing mentality comes in, where it's like, I feel the need to eat the whole plate, the whole sandwich, the whole bag of chips, regardless of how full you are. So that can be something that you want to bring awareness to. Another one is the fear of waste. So thinking, let's say you're eating pizza, thinking it's better if I eat all of this than I throw it away. It's better that I eat it now because it's better now. And if I eat it as leftovers, then it's just not going to be as good. And then another mindset that could be influencing you is the belief in scarcity. This is a big one for anyone who's ever dieted, anyone who's ever restricted in their lives, which is probably 99% of the people who listen to this podcast. And it's that feeling like you might not have access to food later, even if it's not true. Because the thing is, in the past, if you've dieted and restricted, then chances are that you have taught your body that even if I'm hungry, I'm not going to eat. And so your body starts to become really afraid of hunger. And I used to do this where I would have all of these rules. I eat at 9, at 12, at 3, at 6, and I don't eat again until tomorrow morning. And so I would overeat at dinner a lot because I subconsciously had this rule that I'm not going to eat again until tomorrow after my workout at breakfast. So I need to eat enough now in order to make it through all night, all my workout, and then up until 9 tomorrow. Even though if I wanted to, I could just choose to have a snack at 8 p.m. It was a rule for me. And so, of course, I would overeat. And so now you might be working on your relationship with food. You might be having more freedom, working on breaking your food rules. But food rules run deep. And it's like this onion that you peel, where you may have been working on breaking some food rules, eating more carbs, allowing yourself to have foods that you love. But there might be some that are still there a year later. When I started working on healing my relationship with food, there were rules that would pop up like 2 years later. For example, like, whoa, what is this about drinking liquid calories? Like, that's actually still there. And so then I would have to work through it. So that might be something that's still there for you of like, I can't have a snack at night, or I can't have a midday snack. And so that creates this fear, this anxiety. And so of course you're going to eat everything on your plate. Another example, if you've ever taken a flight, then if you're eating a meal at the airport and you know that you're not really going to have another meal for like a couple of hours until you get off that plane again, then even if you're full, you're going to finish your meal to like stock up and not risk being hungry on the flight. So that can be a really, really big one, is this belief in scarcity. So those are the two first steps. Number one is getting clear on where it comes from. And number two is the mindsets that might be influencing you. And the reason why you need to do that work first to understand your patterns better is because the third step is going to be dependent on what is influencing you specifically. So if it's getting your money's worth, or if it's fear of waste, then there's going to be different changes that you're going to make in your life in the future to address those fears and to rewire those fears. So the third step is where you will rehearse what you're going to do differently in the future ahead of time. Because here's the thing. A lot of people try to change their behaviors once they're in it, right? Like they have their food on their plate and they realize that they're full and there's still food on their plate. And then they're in that moment of like, I need to do something differently. But they don't know what that thing is. What do I need to do differently? What do I need to think differently? What do I need to remind myself of? And in that space, you're already dysregulated, right? You're already starting to feel like, oh my God, I'm out of control. I'm no longer the one who's like making the decisions here. So you're already starting to get dysregulated. And your logical mind, your mind that's able to think differently, goes offline. And not only that, but your brain operates on the law of least effort. And so if you've repeated the same pattern over and over again, if you imagine that you've got paths in a forest, one that you have walked on every single day, so it's well worn out, right? There's no trees, there's nothing in the way. It's easy for you to walk on. And the second one is like such a mess. There are trees everywhere. There's high grass. Like for you to walk through that path would require a lot of effort. It would be very uncomfortable. It would be tedious. It would be hard. You're going to choose the path that is easier every time, even if that path is not the one you want to walk on. And so if you're in that moment and you are trying to make a different decision when you're in that moment, it will be really, really hard because you haven't practiced what to do differently in a space where you feel clear-headed, where you are able to think clearly. So what you're going to do is once you realize what your specific patterns are, like what are the mindsets, what are the beliefs, what are the behaviors, then you're going to ask yourself, okay, how do I counter that? How do I address that? So for example, we'll use the one of getting your money's worth. You might want to remind yourself that, and this is something that I had to do, is let's say you're spending $30 on a meal. The $30 is already spent. You've already spent that money regardless of how much you eat or not. And so that's a sunk cost. And now when you've gotten to that point where you've given your body enough food, then you get to decide if you want to walk away from that meal feeling good and feeling light and feeling satisfied and feeling like that was a great experience, or if you want to walk away feeling bad and feeling uncomfortable and feeling full of regret and shame. And so I had to remind myself that actually enjoying my food, stopping when I'm satisfied, and then bringing the rest home or even giving the food away to someone else, that is money well spent because I get to walk away from that experience feeling good. And that's what I want. That's what I want more. But if I didn't rehearse that internal self-talk ahead of time, then I wouldn't know what to do in that situation where that belief is coming online of I need to eat as much as I can to get my money's worth. Because I've just repeated that thought so many times before. So you may rehearse that moment where you're at the restaurant and you're noticing that you want to keep eating, and then you're like, ooh, there's that thought of I need to get my money's worth, but you've already rehearsed what you would tell yourself instead. What's more important to me is that I feel good. What's more important to me is that I walk away from this meal feeling like that was a good experience. The money has already been spent, and it's going to feel so good to just give the rest to someone else, or I can even bring it home and I'm going to enjoy it even more. This is a good example of what I used to do, and I've talked about this before. I used to press snooze multiple times on my alarm clock in the morning. And it's just because I had all of these reasons, like, oh, my bed is so comfortable and it's cold out and it's dark and I don't want to get out of bed. And so I had rehearsed all of these reasons as to why I shouldn't get out of bed. And so I just kept repeating the same pattern of hitting snooze. And then I would be mad at myself because I wanted to get all these things done in the morning and I didn't have time to do them all. So then I had made the decision of like, okay, I am no longer going to press snooze, but the only way for me to break this pattern is for me to rehearse what I'm going to think and what I'm going to remind myself of ahead of time. So I would go to bed and I would literally visualize, like actors do, like athletes do. I would visualize the whole thing. I'm going to bed. I wake up, my alarm. It's 6 o'clock or it's 6:30, whatever time it was. I look outside. It's dark. I am so comfortable in my bed. I start thinking all of the reasons why I should just press snooze again. And this is what I'm going to think instead. And then I would literally walk myself through what I would tell myself. I am waking up early because I want to get all these things done. This is what matters to me. Yes, I'm comfortable, but the second I get out of bed, my day is going to get going. Just count to 5 and get out of bed. And so I would anticipate the reasons. I would anticipate the beliefs. I would anticipate all of the excuses. And then I would remind myself of what I wanted to think instead. So that's an example of the mindset of getting your money's worth. The fear of waste, for example. You might rehearse noticing yourself wanting to keep eating and then just saying, you know what? Even if there's 3 bites left on my plate, I'm going to put these 3 bites into a little container and I'm going to practice breaking this pattern. That's another thing that I had to do. I became the queen of small containers. And it's because I needed to train my brain to leave food on the plate. I needed to train my brain to know that it's okay for me to have a couple of bites that I leave for later. Sometimes I would eat the food as a leftover or a little snack, and sometimes I would throw it away. But that pattern, it trained me to stop eating when I was full, not when my plate was done. So that's another example is you rehearse what you're used to thinking. You take yourself through the entire experience of what happens when you find yourself with food on your plate, what you typically tend to think, and then what you're going to remind yourself of or do differently this time around. I'm going to give you one last example. You're going out to dinner. And you know the pattern. You rehearse what tends to happen when you go out to dinner, what you tend to think, what you tend to feel, some of the behaviors that you tend to have that lead you to finish your plate or eat everything, even if you feel like crap. And then you're going to rehearse what you're going to do instead. And you're going to talk yourself through, okay, I'm going to leave food on the plate. I'm going to pack up the rest. I'm going to remind myself of the fact that I'm going to get to eat this food later and that what's really important for me is to be present and have a good experience here. And you can practice based off the different scenarios that you tend to experience. If it's not wanting to hurt someone's feelings, what are you going to do instead? So some of the things that I recommend and like the suggestions that I give to our FFA members is if you have someone who is like, I made this cake for you, I'm so excited, but you are like beyond full from the meal, to express gratitude and to express how you're feeling and to express that you still are so excited to have this food. And I do this all the time. Oh my goodness, that looks amazing, Susie. Thank you so much. I am so excited to try this cake. Right now, if I eat one more bite of food, I think I'm going to burst. So is it okay if I take that piece of cake with me home so that I can really enjoy it? And I'm going to text you right when I'm done. Like that way, you're still getting to experience the food, but you're doing it when you're at home, when you're actually hungry, and you're not hurting someone's feeling because you really do want to have the food. And at that point, if they choose to get offended, that's on them. That's not on you. So those are the 3 things. I got to wrap things up because I have a call with our FFA members in 3 minutes. But those are the 3 things, the 3 steps that you can take to start retraining your brain to leave food on the plate and getting rid of that all or nothing mentality. So 1, getting curious, reflecting on where it comes from. 2 is learning what are the mindsets that are influencing you specifically. And then based off of that, you get to rehearse what you're going to do differently to address those mindsets. It could be things you're going to remind yourself of, behaviors. And one more thing I want to tell you, because this is something that helps my clients all the time, and I don't want to forget, a mindset that makes a big difference is to remind yourself that your body is not a garbage can. When you have had the food on your plate that has satisfied you and your body no longer needs more, then whatever is left on your plate is garbage. Whether you choose to throw it out, or you choose to put it in a container, or you choose to use your own body as garbage. And your body is not garbage. It's not a garbage disposal. And so when you can start seeing it in that way, then you might recognize like, oh, this food is done. Like this food is extra. It's bonus and it's garbage. And I don't want to use my body as garbage to finish this. So I love you so much. Thank you for listening. And I've seen so many women unlearn the clean your plate mentality. So even if it's been with you for 40 years, 50 years, if you follow these steps and if you rehearse and you do this consistently, then it's only a matter of time before you're going to realize like, wow, I don't even need to work on it anymore. It's just natural. It's just natural for me to leave food on the plate, and there's no guilt and there's no anxiety around it. All right. I believe in you. I'm rooting for you, and I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you found it valuable, I would love if you would share it with someone you know that could benefit. If you're loving the show, don't forget to subscribe over on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. I really love hearing feedback from you, so please leave a rating and review over on Apple to help us get in the ears of more people who need it the most. Finally, come hang out with me on Instagram at Sabrina Magnan Health for more educational content and get up close and personal with me. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you on the next episode.